My name is Capone, and this is my story. A lot of people ask me about things that happened to me in the past, how I made it through certain situations, how I came up with this business or how I came up with that business, and I'm here to let you all know. Capone came from performing and emceeing in a club. Then I became a promoter, which birthed one of my businesses, I Am the Party Girls. In 2007, what happened is, that's when my mother was first diagnosed with colon cancer. I remember being at work. I remember her being sick, and we thought it was just a stomach virus, So basically, she laid in her room in her bed, and she was throwing up. And so it was like, maybe you ate something bad, maybe you got a stomach virus, or whatever. Well, she continued to throw up through the night. And then one of my sisters was like, okay, well, she's still throwing up in the morning. We'll take her to the hospital. So they ended up taking her to the hospital the next day. And when she went to the hospital, I went to work. When I went to work, I remember one of my older sisters coming to get me from my job, saying that we needed to go to the hospital. And I was like, for what? Like, she just got a stomach virus. Like, what is it that we need to go to the hospital for when she just has a stomach virus? And she was like, we don't know yet. Let's just come with me. So I ended up closing down the store that I was working in, locking the doors, kicking everybody that was a customer at the time out, and we went to the hospital. And that's when I found out my mom had colon cancer. I remember collapsing in the flowers and the landscaping that was outside the hospital, crying, being upset, just saying, man, like, I thought it was just a stomach virus. She went through chemo, and she ended up going into remission. Well, I thought it was over with. Remission means the end. So fast forward to 2014. Most of my life it was just me and my mom. Because to me, my mom's like my best friend. She was like my everything. She was my rock. If I had a bad day at work, I wouldn't call the person that I was with. I would call my mom. My parents were together my whole life. They really took the vow serious till death do us part. And that's ultimately how my mom and dad ended. So my mom passed away. 2014, fast forward, and my mom's stomach was swollen. I had taken her to several hospitals in Atlanta, in which their main concern at the time was the fact that her heartbeat was a little off. But they would just keep her for like 24 hours and she would be released. So I remember doing that numerous times because she got to the point where she couldn't eat. So when she got to the point where she couldn't eat, I went, took her back and forth to the hospital. They would keep her for a day and release her. I never thought it was a big deal. Till one day, we went back to the hospital that initially diagnosed my mom with colon cancer. After about a month, this was from early 2014 to about mid 2014, it took them so many months to do another MRI on her. And when they did it, that's when they realized that her stomach lining had tumors in it. I'll never forget that day because it was just me and my mom that was at the hospital. I was working at the morgue at the time. So when we was at the hospital and I couldn't, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, what? Like, her cancer's back? Like, I thought she was in remission. Like, to me at the time, I thought remission means gone forever. But sadly, it didn't. So I went, when we was in the hospital, it was an African gastrointestinal doctor that came in the room. And he was probably one of the most blunt people that I probably have ever met in my life. And he was like, yeah, she has tumors on the lining of her stomach. And I was like, okay, so you can get them out. Like, why can't you get them out? Like, why can't you, what is it that you can't do? He was like, I can't help her. What do you want me to do? I'm like, she has tumors in the lining of her stomach. Like, you can't help her? Like, what is it that you mean you can't, why is it that you're saying you can't help her? Like, there's something that you can do. And he took my hand, and when he grabbed my hand, he was like, feel this. And so I'm pushing on her stomach, and it was like heels, tiny hard heels throughout. It's like heel. He just pushed my hands the whole time. And he's like, it's too many. I was like, why didn't they tell us? Like, why didn't they tell us this? So she went through chemo again. Once she went through chemo again, I was there hours and hours on end. I remember conversations with her when I take her back and forth to the doctor where she would stay. I would beg her, like, can you please fight? Just fight for me. Like, I don't know what I would do without you. I need you to fight. You can make it through this. And she was like, you gonna be all right. She was like, you don't need me, I need you. And I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what do you mean? And she was just like, you don't need me, I need you. So you're gonna be okay. And I remember her saying, just pray and ask God to give you strength over whatever decision that I choose to make. Fast forward, I dropped her off at home. I had to go do something in my job. I dropped her off at home. When I dropped her off at home, everything was fine, talking, She was telling me about how to save and how she made it through life and how I would be okay. And when I dropped her off at home, I went to work and my sister called me and said that she was weak and that she couldn't get up. And I was like, she's running a fever. I was like, running a fever? Like, we just left the doctor's office. What do you mean? She was walking, talking fine. She just running a fever? What do you mean? She was like, she's running a fever. I called the doctor and they said, take her back to the hospital. So I called my sister and I was like, hey, the doctor is telling me to tell you to take her back to the hospital. At the time, she had a chemo pump on her side that was basically like giving her slow amounts of chemo throughout the day. When she left the chemo office, they would give her a large dose, and then she had this pump where it would give her small doses of chemo throughout the day. So I was like, okay, take her back to the hospital. I just knew everything was fine because I had just dropped her off at home, so I knew it was fine. So my sister went in the hospital to get a wheelchair and came back, and my mom was slumped over in the car. And so I ended up pulling up to the hospital. One of my sisters called me on the phone and said, you need to hurry up and get here. Why? It's fine. It's fine. She's ran fevers before. It's fine. Ended up getting to the hospital, and when I walked through the door, the only thing I heard was cold blue in the ER, cold blue in the ER. Can't be talking about my mom, but they won't let anybody in the back. They tell my family saying they won't let you back there. They won't let us in. They had us in a small room off to the side, but every door was locked. We couldn't. They were like containing us. I ended up breaking in, going and finding my mom because they wouldn't tell us where she was at. I walked down the hall, walk. She's not in there. Continued to walk. The door was open. My mom was sitting up in the hospital bed. Not physically sitting up, but in the bed, sitting up with her head slumped to the side. And there was a doctor on this side of her trying to put an IV in her neck. I began to frantically scream, Mama, I'm here. I haven't left. I haven't went nowhere. I'm here. The doctor called security on me and had me escorted out. I went back to where my family was. I don't even remember what I said or what I could have did when I went back in there where they were. I don't know. Next thing I know, we're in ICU. We're in ICU. When we got into ICU, I felt like everything was fine. You grow up hearing God won't put more on you than you can bear. You grow up here and have faith the size of a mustard seed, and God can move mountains. You grow up hearing God is a way maker. You grow up hearing all these phrases that you end up hanging on to throughout the course of your life. I went, and my family was like, I went to mortuary school, so I understood death more than anyone in my family would. And when we got to ICU, I was sleeping on a bench, a very, very small bench. Me and my sister went and got some cover. We didn't leave. Me and my two sisters, we never left. Throughout the 3 days that she was in ICU, from October from October 13th through the 16th, all I heard was cold blue in my mom's room, cold blue. I would run out of the waiting area, and there was a small window in the back that I could peek through. So when I ran out of the waiting area, when I heard cold blue, I went and I peeked through a small window. And I would just be in the window looking and trying to figure out like what's going on. I would see doctors and nurses running from in and out of the room, in and out. I was knocking on the window, knocking, bam, and the nurses would be like, go away. Not meaning it rudely, but at the time they were trying to focus on my mom, not really deal with me and what I had going on. So the final time, I called her doctor several times in the course of the ICU, and he was saying, my dad made it, he coded before, it'll be fine. Okay, I began Googling stories about people who's passed on and said they went to heaven and came back to life. I have a cousin that was unconscious for a while, so I began to ask her questions. I went to the chapel several times, and I was writing letters to God, asking God not to take my mom from me. And I would read letters from other people about their children that was in ICU and how they didn't make it, and it would upset me. So I went, and when I was writing these letters to God and begging God not to take my mom away, I would go and I would just scream. I would just yell at God in the chapel, God, why me? Like, why? Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to you? Like, why? And then the next second I would just be like, okay, well, let's just have faith. He not gonna leave us. Let's have faith. She's gonna be okay. I worked in a funeral home. I know what death looks like. This isn't death. Like, this isn't what it looks like. I know. She still looks like life. But the reality of it is that it was inevitable. I went about 5 in the morning. It was the first day I was able to sleep, October 16th. October 16th was the first day I laid on the hospital bench and couldn't sleep because I had spoke to a pastor who told me that everything was going to be okay, and if not, just be prepared for whatever it is that God wants to do. My sister, oldest sister, woke me up and said, I just left from the back end. I just overheard them saying that they need to tell us the truth, that she's not going to make it. I said, what are you talking about? She's going to make it. She's going to be fine. Like, God us, we good. My sister was like, no, the nurses just told the doctor that he needs to tell us the truth. She's not going to make it. She's not okay. Next thing you know, about 5 in the morning, cold blue, all over again. We got the doctor come in and tell us, hey, you got to make a decision. Like, we can't keep resuscitating her. We're resuscitating her and it's not working. So you have to make a decision. I didn't want to make that decision. I hated myself for that decision. I hated myself for what I thought I was allowing my family to do. My dad came up there, my uncle came up there, and they said, okay. They signed a DNR, do not resuscitate. I lost it, and they gave me the opportunity to go in the room with my mom. I think I was the last person to speak to her because her heart rate will go from 212, 250 beats per minute to normal, to 212, to flatline. I saw my mom flatline so many times and come back. It's like it would just be flat, and the next thing you know, it would come back. One time I got so pissed off that when she flatlined, I then got on the hospital bed and began to try to do compressions on her myself. Like, don't go nowhere, don't leave, don't. I was losing my mind, man. Once I did that, my family said, you need to go talk to her. Everybody else done been, except for you. You need to go in there, you need to make your peace, and you need to talk to her and let her know that it's okay. I spoke to my mom at about 1 o'clock, 12:45, 1 o'clock. I told her I would be okay. I said, if you leave, I'll be okay, but I need you to understand that I still need to feel your presence. I still need you around me. I still need you to show me and guide me, because I'm not going to make it without you. But if you leave me, I'll figure it out and I'll be okay. At 1:08 p.m. she flatlined. Soon as after that conversation, she flatlined, went in cardiac arrest. Her eyes flew open. And it's like, I felt like her soul leave her body. Like, it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I felt it. I broke down. I broke down to the point where I felt like I was never going to get back up. To the point where I didn't think I was ever going to be able to live again. When she flatlined, I ended up getting this earring out her ear. And I keep it there. I don't take it out. I ended up going to the funeral home about 6 or 7 hours after that. And when I was on the way to the funeral home, one of my sisters said, just do me a favor. She can't be passed on. We knew she passed on because she was at the funeral home. But can you check her pulse one more time? Because I hear people that come back, even though, can you check her pulse one more time? Got to the funeral home. And when I got there, my mom was laid on the table. And when she was on the table, I ended up giving her her final bath and praying to God, like, this can't be life right now. This can't be real. And the funeral home director was like, no, I know you went to school for it, but this your mom, is completely different. You're not going to heal. You're not going to do, no, let me do it. And I did it. Got back to the house, of course, my sister called, and I was like, yeah, it's real. Like, we were all there. We knew she passed on, but we just couldn't believe it, man. I never seen my mom get sick my whole life until that time. Because she was always well to me, but she ended up getting sick, that's it. And then I ended up going, and it was a fog. Like I had a fog. Like I couldn't think. I laid in the same spot in the bed. I couldn't think. I couldn't eat. I couldn't put on regular clothes. I couldn't do anything. I was just so far into depression. I went to Target, and when I got to Target, I didn't get out the car. I don't even know what I was there for. I called one of my friends on the phone who I know that I shouldn't be associating with, because she's completely opposite from me. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't, do a lot of things, but she's my friend that don't mind. She down for whatever. So I called her. Where you at? I'm at Target. Where are you? Oh, I'm not too far from there. You want me to come up there? Yeah. You got a gun with you? Yeah. All right, cool. Bring me a gun. Okay. She don't know what I need it for. She on the way to just do what I asked her to do. She called me back about 5 minutes later and was like, I just got pulled over. And I'm like, why? And she's like, I'm on my way to jail because I had a warrant for my arrest. And I was like, dang. I knew from that moment that I was meant to be here. Like, I was meant to fight through it, I felt like I couldn't live through that, I was driving down the highway on the wrong side of the highway, and I made it. Like, I would be driving home, and I couldn't figure out where home was. I was so far in a slump. Like, I would think I would be going 20 west, but turn around, I'm going 20 east, but I'm going the wrong direction, and I made it. I was begging God to let me die. Like, every morning I get up, I would be so mad at God. Like, why did you wake me up today? Like, I want to go see my mom. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be here. Why did you wake me up? And every day I have to fight through it.
All right.
Hold on, let George say what.
Get right down.
The scripture declares to us, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. We release these doves symbolically as the spirit leaves the body and goes to be with the Lord. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Let us release.
I was in such a fog. I would go to grief counseling sessions with multiple people, and they would focus on me. Grief counselors would tell me about how they lost their children, how they lost so-and-so. And I still couldn't find any peace. I would go to the grocery store and hear a child cry out, "Mom!" I used to be angry because Mom was no longer here. Mother's Day, I can't go around to the grocery stores because I go in there and break down. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to make it. Not only did I lose my mom, but I separated from the person that I was with during all that time. I had to go Thanksgiving, I had to go Christmas. And some kind of way I made it through it. Then all those times I begged God to let me pass away or to not wake me up. I got to a point where people used to tell me you need something or somebody to help you find life again, because you're going to kill yourself if you keep grieving the way that you're grieving. You're going to die. You're dying. You're dying. You don't even realize that you're dying. You're asking God to die, to let you die, but you're dying. And I used to be like, whatever, that's fine. I was in such a thick fog to where I couldn't think, to where when I went and got my mom's picture tattooed on my arm, when I pulled out of the tattoo shop, I hit a pedestrian and I called my dad and I was like, I hit somebody. And he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't even know how I got here. I don't know how I got to the tattoo shop. I don't know how I don't even understand what's going on. But I hit a pedestrian and he was like, well, are they okay? And I was like, yeah. He was like, they called the police on you? I was like, nah. The pedestrian that I hit was a nice lady, and I didn't hit her hard because I was backing out of my parking spot, but I remember her telling me, I understand exactly what you're going through. I'm going to let you go. I'm a mom myself, and I know exactly how the hurt and the pain that it would cause for something to happen to me with my kids. But I'm fine. So I want you to go, and I want you to go, and I want you to pray. And the pedestrian, she ended up letting me go. She walked off. And there was a lot of things that I did that I wonder how I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? Because I was driving the wrong way on the highway. I didn't care. Like, I had no regard for nothing. I was depressed. Like, I had no regard for nothing. So I separated from the chick that I was with at the time, and, you know, she started doing her thing with somebody else and, you know, whatever. So I birthed my business, I Am the Party Girls. I Am the Party Girls became my baby. I birthed it in 2015, to where I started throwing parties and started changing my hat from being a performer over to being a promoter.
But let it back out, you don't fuck a dog, hit the make the city back it out. You hating on me, I don't give a fuck, I'm a street nigga, you can walk it out. As quick as they can, the atmosphere is now lit. I'm glad it's nice. You better go up, tell somebody to the building. When I shoot the moon.
Once I became a promoter and started having successful events, I remember when I first started, I used to have to beg celebrities to let me throw their parties. Hey, let me throw this party, and let me do this and let me do that. I used to have to beg them to let me do that. And now they if they're in Atlanta, a lot of times they'll call or text me. I birthed I Am the Party Girls through that, and started getting up, throwing parties, big or small, big, you know, back to small to big to back to small, all over again. And instead of me grieving, that's what I did. Is through parties. I ended up connecting back with a girl, and she was like, yeah, you're severely depressed. So I then went and we started artificial insemination, which is how I got my son. We started artificial insemination at Reproductive Biology Associates. And once we started our artificial insemination process, that's when everything kind of hit me. It was like, now I got something to live for again. I got eye on the party girls, I got a kid on the way, so I have something to live for. Then, boom, I threw another party. I had a side party with Saya. She came to Atlanta in November. I was coughing. Just a cough. I ended up going to the hospital. Oh yeah, you got bronchitis. Cool. Give me medicine. I ended up going to the hospital 3 times. The 4th time I went to the hospital, they didn't let me go. They put me in the back. I went to an urgent care. They put me in the back of an ambulance and sent me to Northside Hospital, to where I found out my lung collapsed, and I ended up having pneumonia in my lung, in both lungs, but one had actually collapsed, and I had a child on the way. I suddenly went back to remembering all those times I begged God to let me die, and here I am begging Him to let me live, because I got a new baby on the way. So once I was in the hospital, I remember them bringing in a crash cart for me several times, as I had just went through with my mother in 2014, watching her code, and then bringing in the crash cart. One time, my heart rate was so high, the nurse came to my bed and she was saying something to me, but it wasn't even her. Like, it was like an image of my mother. And she told me that I was on my way to ICU. If I didn't try to control my heart rate. Once she came to my bedside and said that, and I seen the image of my mom, I realized then I no longer wanted to die, because I had a baby. I had this new life that I was trying to live. And I began to tell God, to apologize to God, because when I lost my mom, I thought I wasn't going to believe in God again. Like, I started trying to be Jehovah's Witnesses and Buddhists, and I started researching all these different religions, and I went through so much mentally that I didn't even know if I was going or coming. Like, I went through so much. But then I'm on the table on my way to ICU and asking God and apologizing to God, like, I am sorry. Can you please just let me get through this? You saved me when the police officer, whoever pulled my friend over, saved me that day. I made it through the homegoing. I made it through the burial. I made it through the funeral, going to the funeral home, and I made it through all those things. So can I please just make it through this? At that moment, I realized I needed to cherish life, and I needed to live. I needed to go. I needed to go on. I needed to learn how to deal with the sore, the throbs, the pain of losing my mother. Got back in counseling. I've been counseling now for so long, consistently, because of the pain of losing my mom. Once I asked God to live, and I got out of the hospital from my lung collapsing in 2015, I then ended up continuing on and remembering that I need to pray, and still having visions of my mom, still seeing my mom, still feeling her presence every now and then, and ended up having my child. And my mom and I used to do a lot of, we love animals. We're animal lovers. So my mom, we used to go to the zoo all the time. We used to go to the aquarium. And one of my best memories of my mom was when I was about 16 or 17 years old, and she took us to Noah's Ark. We went on like a church thing to Noah's Ark, and I was upset because it was raining outside. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to go. We're not going to be able to go. It's raining. And it stopped raining, and we went to Noah's Ark, and we had a good time. And that was one of the things that me and my mom would always talk about. Hey, remember that time with the Noah's Ark and it was raining? Remember that time with the Noah's Ark and it was raining? Yeah, I remember. And we had stories about Noah's Ark, so that's why my son's name is Noah Rain. It's because that was one of my best memories that I had with my mom, is going to Noah's Ark and it was raining. So I named my baby Noah Rain. And the crazy part about it is his name is Noah. He loves ships and he likes animals. So it worked out, you know. It definitely did. So now I'm promoting in the city and got a baby and finally seeing, I wouldn't say the rainbow after the storm. I would say a ray of sunshine, because sometimes I can get through it, and sometimes it's days where I can't. It's days where I feel like I'm not gonna make it. You experience loss of someone that close to you, you feel like your whole world is over. Like, I remember listening to when Marvin Sapp lost his wife. I remember listening to one of his songs called My Testimony, and he was saying, in spite of calamity, he still has a plan for me, and I know it's working out for my good. And I used to say that to myself all the time, along with the quote that my mom said, just pray and ask God to give you strength over whatever decision I chose to make. And I used to be like, she chose? Like, did that mean she chose to live? Like, what was she trying to tell me when she said, did she choose to leave? Like, what is it? And then Marvin Sapp, in spite of calamity, he still has a plan for me. And it's working out for my good. That's how I got to where I am today, to where I can be. I'm not okay with it. I'm not good with it. I'm not in a great spot with it. I'm not, but I'm living with it, you know. Those are some of the things that help me get through. You can cut it for a second.
You want what? You good?
Yeah,
no, I ain't cut it. You sure?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Alright.
Take your time.
Okay. Alright, I'm good. You can roll it back. So, I used to just pray like all the time, like, and my dad, my grandparents aren't alive. My dad lost all his siblings, so really no aunts or anything like that. All my mom's siblings passed away except for one, so I got one uncle. And so I'm all too familiar with death, man. And okay. All right. Let me get it together. So,
That's a funny face.
you gonna put your pants on?
I got a funny face. I got a funny face.
So Noah and I having a discussion where I'm teaching him who his parents are. And he asked me a question. Noah, what'd you ask me?
Shimonique.
He got a little cold right now.
Shimonique.
What'd you just ask me?
Shimonique.
You asked me where my mom was?
Yes.
Yes.
At Target?
No, my mom ain't at Target. I wish.
Wish?
No, my mom is in heaven.
And Mommy that hey?
It's in heaven, yeah.
Heaven?
Yeah,
I want to talk to her.
I do too.
I want to. Please talk to her.
I can't let you talk to her. She's in heaven. You have to pray to her.
That's him, not her, him.
Yeah, sit back. You have to pray to my mom. She's in heaven.
Oh, that's her and him. And her and him. And sister.
Yeah. She's with Jesus, Noah.
Not Jesus, go by you. Ain't gonna break, ain't gonna paddle. And paddle.
Come here.
Paddle, but to
Do you know?
I'm gonna build a robot. It's gonna be my best friend. I'm gonna build a robot. It's gonna be my best friend. That's your turn. That's your turn.
Okay. You don't want to talk about mom anymore?
No, and that's your turn, bitch. Say,
Let me sing. I'm gonna build a robot. It's gonna be my best friend. I'm gonna build a robot. It's gonna be my best friend.